This is B.Hun with Alternative Facts Chicago. Back again. This is episode 58. Getting close to 60. So glad to be back. I feel like it's been a little bit. Obviously, at North Coast Music Festival, did those interviews that we had posted with the cool kids as well as DJ Haley House. Great interviews, got great feedback. So thank you all for comments and listening to the interviews. But man, really haven't had a chance to deep dive into all these topics from the past, say, week or two. It's been a lot that's gone on. Of course, we don't have a new episode. So many crazy things happen. So I do want to introduce back to Alternative Facts Chicago. He was actually with me on the last episode before we took a little break for the North Coast Festival. So I want you to say hello from the Awaken Soul podcast to CEO Haize. Welcome back, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. This is my second time back. If I come back again, I'm gonna start moving in furniture.
Hey, you may have to anyway, but you got some great feedback from the last episode that we did, talking about the state of the podcast industry. Like I said, you are just someone that's always enlightening, that's real, that gives good, honest feedback. You can always have a good discussion with. So the people wanted you back on Alternative Facts Chicago, so you're here again.
Oh man, I appreciate it. I love good feedback. I love podcasting in general, man. And me and you always have good conversations on or off recorded. So I'm always down for this.
Absolutely. So quickly before we get into it, I'm going to plug social media. B.Hun1984 is my Twitter. You can find us on AFAC Chicago on Twitter, Instagram, as well as Facebook is Alternative Facts Chicago. The likes have been increasing on Facebook, so please like it as well, too. Remember, we are on Spotify at Alternative Facts Chicago, as well as iTunes. I have seen some new reviews come in, so please keep those coming. And then you can always email us questions at alternativefactschicago@gmail.com. So you can find us any and everywhere. Make sure you keep up to date with that. Now, next week, we'll have a huge announcement on some things coming up for Alternative Facts Chicago. I thought we would be able to announce it this week. Unfortunately, I guess we were told that we couldn't. So it's actually some great news, big news for us in the city of Chicago specifically. We got a lot going on coming up here soon. So once we're able to officially announce it, which should be next week, we'll have a big announcement for the show. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And this weekend, I will be in Detroit for Lobster Fest. I know we had the Great American Lobster Fest on Navy Pier here just a couple of weeks ago over Labor Day weekend, Chicago. Great event, great turnout. If you love lobster, if you love seafood, if you like drinking, live music, it's a place for you. So it'll be in Detroit this weekend at Hart Plaza. We got a lot of listeners from the D. Since I'm from there, I will be there this weekend. If you want ticket information, how to go, just please message me, DM me. You can also, they have a website too for the Great American Lobster Fest, so make sure you check it out. But I will be there on Friday and Saturday, some point of this week. It's my mom's birthday, so definitely going to be taking her down there, get her some lobster, enjoy. It should be a good weather in Detroit this weekend. So if you're there this weekend, make sure to say what up and say hello. And lastly, this Thursday, each and every Thursday, we have started our new season on Wild Dogs Radio every single Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can hear each and every episode of Alternative Facts Chicago. We always have songs of the week that we list on there as well. So shouts out to Doug. Shouts out to Doug as well. Thank you so much for letting our show be hosted on the number one platform that they have there. And I know I'm not sure what the ratings have been, but I know a couple of weeks we have been number one. Haize, I know you got some competition now since we are all family on that station too. So let our listeners know what shows that you have and when they're going to be on Wild Dogs Radio each and every Thursday as well.
So yeah, we the Awaken Soul, my solo podcast is on there. We air right after you, after Alternative Facts Chicago. Then we have the Breaks Radio, which is the hip hop strictly podcast. You get some great hip hop discussion there, album reviews. We throw in some skits every once in a while, so it's a great fun show, especially if you like the genre. And then we have the Grown and Sexy podcast. That's Love, Lust, and Badass Soul coming in late nights on Wild Dogs Radio, where all the freaks stay up at night. So yeah, it's just a good weekend. Actually from Doug, because I asked for it being my first weekend. I think he said as a night we did like 29,000 listeners that night. We did great.
Oh, that's crazy.
So yeah.
So sounds like the people liking what they're hearing so far. So make sure you check it out. You know, Doug's a good guy. He definitely does a lot for the industry. I know he helps it out for people like with Billboard charts and their radio show. So definitely a good look. Shouts out to Doug, Wild Dogs Radio. And I know you're on some other platforms. We are too as well. We'll give plugs for that at the end of the episode. But let's get right into it. You ready to go through these topics?
Let's do it.
All right. So first of all, I know it's been a crazy week in music. We're going to talk a little bit about the NFL first since it's back fresh for the year. But first of all, we got to give a quick rest in peace to Mac Miller. And I know when I heard that news, it stopped me dead in my tracks. And like I said, I don't take a lot of celebrity deaths hard, but this one stopped me dead in my tracks. I couldn't believe it. It's just insane how all these great legendary artists at like 27 and 26 years old are just passing away. It's been crazy. So, what was your, brief memory, if you can enlighten the CJ on Mac Miller and what, how he meant for his career and how he impacted you with his music?
I would say Mac Miller is one of the celebrity deaths outside of Michael Jackson that hit me the hardest. And I'm not at all comparing him to Mike, but Mac Miller was somebody that I got to see grow up. Like I've been listening to him since his first mixtape dropped, and I think he was like 17. So even though he was only 26, I got to see him mature as a person, as an artist, and I definitely felt an attachment to him and his music. And it hit me even a little bit harder because my oldest son, my 12-year-old son Xavier, is the biggest Mac Miller fan in the
Wow.
world. And so having to explain to him that his favorite artist is gone, it definitely touched home a little bit more. So yeah, Mac Miller was, and people may say it's crazy because he was only 26, but I really feel Mac Miller is a legend. I'm not saying he's one of the greatest rappers of all time, but his music was personal, and I think that anyone who's a real fan of his, you felt like you knew him, and that's why that his death is really, you see how it's affected other artists, you see how it's affected his fans. He was a special guy.
The crazy part, I saw some people on Facebook posting. They're like, I don't know if I'm too old or what, but who the heck is Mac Miller? I'm like, come on, man. Like, you've been you've been living under a rock for all these years, and you don't necessarily have to be the biggest music fan or hip hop fan or what. But I felt like his music was universal. He touched a lot of different people, and he never really conformed to the Lils and the Youngs in terms of the type of music that you create. He always stayed authentic to himself. I would say he was very, more soul vibe than anything, like soul hip hop, which you wouldn't think for a white rapper that would be his lane. But he was really coming to his own, like with his most recent album. I think the best album he's ever done. I think he like found who he was as an artist. So it's real unfortunate. I don't think obviously it was planned. Like obviously he went through some addictions, which people go through, but I don't think he was set out to really kill himself. I think it was just an accident, wasn't supposed to happen, and it's real sad and unfortunate, for the music community overall.
Oh yeah, and it's sad to lose any life at 26. I don't know about you, but at 26, I wasn't as much of a POS as I was at like 19 or 21, but I still was maturing as a person. And
Absolutely.
and regardless of whatever his flaws were, regardless if how much you liked his music or not, you just expected to see him grow so much more than from where he's already come from. He's already grown a lot. So the world was definitely robbed of something when Mac Miller left this earth.
Yeah, when I first saw the headline, like I think I was scrolling through my phone, and of course the first one I see is TMZ of always. And I think honestly, I literally I think my mouth dropped, and I started scrolling to see if it was like a parody account or just like hoping like, man, this can't be true. And I saw another one, and it is crazy. And like I said, I know he just had that DUI, and he said he was fine. He was in great spirits. The night before, they said he had a video which I saw on Instagram of him producing, playing the piano. He looked happy and good spirits, and then you just don't wake up the next day. So it just goes to show like life can change you at a moment's notice. So we'll get off this, but rest in peace, Mac Miller. And I see all his music, a lot of his albums now are in the top 10, 20 of iTunes. I think all his music has jumped up like 972% in sales. So good. He deserves. I just wish this didn't always happen to people after they pass away. Then their music goes to the forefront. I wish these things happen, as people appreciate their career while they're alive. I just don't understand why that happens so often.
Yeah, it's crazy how like as a community, it seems like overall people just don't appreciate anyone until they're gone or until they're retired, and then there's a new appreciation found for the music. But I'm not going to criticize them at this point. I'm just glad for anyone who's new to Mac Miller's music is really discovering something. They have a library to go through where they're just going to find some gems. Absolutely.
Good deal. So we'll get back on music here in a little bit because I got to hear some opinions from you on a lot that's been going on in the music game. It's been a crazy couple weeks. But first, I think we need to get into a little bit NFL action from this past week. So I had a rough week in the NFL. At least my fantasy team won. Detroit Lions. I don't know what the heck that was. Terrible. Everyone knows I'm a Lions fan, and we're gonna talk in quick hits on who had the worst lost, the Chicago Bears to the Detroit Lions. Because I think they were both equally bad in different forms of how you want to imagine how you can lose a game. They both did it. It was pretty bad on both fronts. But for you, I know you're a big NFL fan. What do you think is the biggest surprise or storyline coming out of NFL Week 1 going into Week 2 this week?
The Jets for me. The Jets, absolutely.
At the expense of the Lions.
Yeah, like I'm just, if there was any game, and me and you talk, so you know my respect for the Lions quarterback, but I didn't even think I would have to check the score of the Jets game, much less them score 48 points in one game. Like this is that had to be the biggest personal surprise for me. I didn't expect much from them at all.
No, obviously you got a rookie quarterback, Sam Darnold, his first game ever on the road. Did I mention his first game ever? He throws a pick six his very, very first play. And, you know, we were at the bar with some friends. It was actually at a Lions bar in Chicago. A bunch of Lions fans. We see that play and we're like, oh, man, all right, you know, let's get it. You know, we got pick six first play. It's on. We're about to have a great season. And that was it. Like, after that, the Jets literally kicked Lions' ass. I don't know. And the alarming part about it, and I don't have to go off on a tangent of the Lions because, like I said, this is a Chicago-based show. But I just saw a team that didn't really care or even want to play for the coach already. It seems like from what the rumors are, Matt Patricia has come in trying to be like Bill Belichick, which is a terrible idea. All the assistant coaches go to other teams that leave Bill Belichick and try to beat him, and it just never works. And if that's the model that they're going to try to build in Detroit, it ain't going to work. That's just not how they operate. And if you've given up on your coach in week 1, that's like not a good sign for the season. And I'm sorry, Lions fans, but we may have a long season on our hands.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a long season ahead for the Lions. And we'll just go ahead and say a couple prayers for them now.
Facts, man. So I say my biggest takes of the week is first the fact, well, it's not really a surprise, but just the simple fact that no matter who plays for the New England Patriots, that they always just win. Like they beat Houston pretty handy. I think the score is a little bit closer, but they had a bunch of bums. I think they only had 3 wide receivers dressed. And Tom Brady still had a heck of a game. I don't know how they do what they do. It really doesn't matter, but they just seem to do it. I was a little surprised at how, I guess, not so great Oakland looked. I thought it'd be the first game. John Gruden, new coach. David Carr, threw 3 interceptions. Didn't really look that great. Pretty surprised there. I'm pretty surprised how Jimmy G played. San Francisco didn't look that well in their opening week. And, of course, they're playing Detroit this week, too. So, and then lastly, I would say for the Pittsburgh Steelers and those that rep the Steelers, support the Steelers, I know you say James Conner's a great running back. He could be really good. He had a good first game. But, guys, I'm sorry. He's just not Le'Veon Bell. And you guys tied the Cleveland Browns of all teams. You tied them. So to say that you really don't need Le'Veon Bell any longer, yes, you do. You should have paid him the money. Unfortunately, you just should have paid him the money. And he's making an example out of it, whether you agree or not, because he's on my fantasy team. And he's not playing. But at the end of the day, I think they should have just paid him his money. And to say you don't need him, I think is not true. You definitely need him. He's one of the top 2 or 3 running backs in the NFL.
I agree with all that.
Facts. And so what do you think about in regards to James Conner? Like, do you think, obviously he's a good player, do you think Le'Veon Bell is right to sit out, or they don't need him, or what?
No, I'd be crazy to say they don't need Le'Veon Bell. But I absolutely think they need him. But I mean, they're both good players. It's just he's not quite at that caliber yet. So they definitely need Bell.
Absolutely, I think they do. So people that say that they don't, I think they're absolutely crazy. And what's going on? I want your thoughts on this on Dez Bryant. A, should he stop tweeting? And 2, is he getting blackballed by the NFL, by the Dallas Cowboys? Because why the heck is he not on the team right now?
Okay, so as far as blackball, like I usually think of blackballed when it's like something that you didn't do to yourself. So I wouldn't say he's being blackballed per se, but I think that people just don't want to deal with the headache of Dez Bryant. And I think he's brought that upon himself because he doesn't know when to just shut the hell up. Like that's what it boils down to. He just needs to shut up sometimes, especially now, and just wait for the call. Like he is talented. Should he be on a team? Absolutely. But as we've seen before, like sometimes teams just don't feel like dealing with a headache. And I think Dez Bryant is making himself a headache right now.
Absolutely. And I would say, with all the tweeting still, like, I don't think that's helping his case at all, especially even talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Even if you're talking about another team, I think it's the way his demeanor, the way he talks about it, he still just seems a little scorned and seems a little bitter. So I don't think that's making any team want to rush to have him, bring him on a team and sign him. Like, for example, I know New England, he said, he even tweeted that, he'd be open to going to New England Patriots. And then the Patriots signed two guys this week, not named Dez Bryant. Like Corey Coleman, who got shipped off away by the Cleveland Browns, still decided to sign him over Dez Bryant. So if that's not a sign of what's going on right now, I'm not sure what is.
Hey, I agree. I agree with it. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he's not on the team at all this year, unless there's like some big injury to a contender down the stretch and they need someone. Maybe he'll get a call then. But if he keeps tweeting the way he is, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he shuts up. Maybe for the next 3 to 4 weeks, he may get picked up. But if he just keeps this going for most of the season, he's not going to be on the team.
You play fantasy football, or how'd you do this past week?
I do not listen. I had to stop playing fantasy football when my youngest son was born, my youngest child was born in general, because it just at that point it was taking up too much time. And my son he was sick when he was born, so I had to spend a lot of time with him, and I just have not picked it back up since then. I guess podcasting is taking the place of my fantasy football, and that's how much time I used to spend on it.
Right. And I know people who do 5, 6, 7 fantasy leagues. They're probably listening to the show. I don't know how they do it. It's very time consuming. And it's hard because if you have 5 different teams and you don't draft the same players on those teams, you're basically following the entire league to see who did well, because they're probably more often than not are on your fantasy team.
Exactly. And it gets so time consuming. My energy is better focused elsewhere.
Hell, I know. Even the ones that do like fantasy baseball, fantasy basketball, to where you got to update your rosters almost daily. Man, I don't know how people do it, but people love it. It's obsessive, which I get it. It gives you a reason to watch the games, but I can only do football. I can't do the rest of them.
Yeah, I knew it was a problem once. Like I said, my oldest son, I think he was 8 at the time, where I was like somewhere at work and the Wi-Fi wasn't working. I had to call my son over the phone and explain to him how to log in to change my fantasy team, and that's when I realized it was a problem.
You're like, all right, I'm in too deep when I got to ask my son for a login just so I can look at my team.
Exactly.
It's hilarious. Cool, man. So the NFL, we'll definitely be talking about the NFL more as the season goes along. Leave your thoughts and comments on your impressions on your first week of the season. Did your team win? Did your team lose? It's going to be a long season, but man, I'm already almost out on my Detroit Lions, and I know there's a lot of people who know I'm a Matt Stafford fan. Yes, I'm on thin ice with Matt Stafford. He cannot have a game like that ever again. Maybe he doesn't like Matt Patricia. I'm like, maybe he was saving points or something like that. But come on, Lions, you got to do better, because that was pathetic and embarrassing. I'm glad they got booed out of the building because they deserved it.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Detroit, man, all right, so we got to switch to music now. Didn't do a full episode last week, so a lot's gone on with Eminem, with Kamikaze, with his album. Did great. Actually ended up, the projections were around like 230K. He ended up selling well over 400,000 albums of Kamikaze. First of all, and I never really got your thoughts overall on the album. You don't have to go line by line, deep dive of the song, but do you think he delivered content-wise on this album?
I think that he made up for Revival very strongly. I think we got more of the M that Eminem fans wanted and expected from him. So as far as like the rapping, it was there. I feel like he used some old tactics to kind of generate buzz around it, but Eminem's always been one of those guys who was fueled by his critics. So Revival getting as much negative feedback as what it did, it makes sense to why this album is so much better than that. But I will say this: as much as I'm an M fan and I like the album, this album wouldn't have done as good as it was if it wasn't for everyone being so disappointed by Revival.
Yes, and agreed. I think he admitted that before, because he was saying, I think yesterday he did an interview with Sway, and he was saying if he didn't get the feedback from Revival or make Revival, we wouldn't get Kamikaze. Also, how if we didn't get Relapse, we wouldn't have got Recovery. So sometimes you got to go through that a bad album to get to a good album, so to speak. So for that, I do appreciate the fact that he understands when music's trash or just not what is. But sometimes I just wish that he didn't necessarily care to have to prove himself, if that makes sense. Like he always wants people to know that he can rap, which he doesn't have to do. Like Eminem, one of the greats, my top 3 of all time. If you're top 5, top 10, I won't argue either of that. But like I said, sometimes I think he always wants to prove that he is one of the best still. When people, deny him or say it wasn't as good, I think he's just getting used to the social media age, to where on social media and you see Twitter every single day. Everything's either the greatest thing ever made or it's trash. like, and there's no in between on social media. And I think he just really can't get used to that. Like, people, Revival may not have been his best album. It may not have been horrible, but to the masses on social media, it's gonna either be great or trash. Like, even if they don't think it was that bad means terrible. So I think a lot of times he went hard on himself on that. And I think now he tried to prove a point to a lot of people. I think he's trying to go for 2018 clout, name dropping names. But hey, I'm an M fan. I thought it was a dope album, well put together, his best album that he's had, I think, since Recovery. So for that, I think it worked.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback off what you said, I think that we have to remember where M came from. He came up as a battle rapper in Detroit, a white battle rapper in Detroit. So I feel like he's always had that I have to prove how good I am vibe to him. And the
Yep.
moment that he gets comfortable and he expects people to know how good he is, that's when we get the relapses and the revivals. And so he's someone that I think always needs some type of motivation, and I think he finds it difficult to find motivation in not having critics. Maybe if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Oh,
Um,
that makes sense why he said the interview yesterday with Sway, which actually is very lightning thinking back on it now. I think part two comes out tonight. But he said he's happier when he's angry. So he probably makes better music when he's angry. Like, his first three albums, Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP, Eminem Show, he was angry during that whole point in life. He's coming up in the music game, just starting to get money. By the time he gets to Encore and all that, he has money. Or, when he gets to Revival, has a ton of money. Maybe he's happy because I think Marshall Mathers LP2 got pretty good feedback. So when you're happy, then he probably settles back, tries some random shit that may not work, and it doesn't work, and then you got to make Recovery, or then you got to come back and make a Kamikaze album. So that definitely makes sense.
yeah, and I think too, we live in an era to kind of piggyback off the last thing you said, is the other thing you said is that we live in an era now to where people always say, "Oh, well, he's doing the same thing he always does." Not him specifically, but I just mean artistry in general. And the
Yep.
moment an artist tries to step outside their box, they're criticized with, "Oh, this isn't what we expected." So
Isn't that crazy?
it's weird. Like it's such a weird era that we live in. And I think that, and he said that on the Sway interview too. It's like people back when he was coming up, or his era, his class of hip hop, everyone had to differentiate themselves and find their own hook and be different. Now we live in an era that for some reason anything that's different is almost considered whack. Like, why aren't you the same as everyone else? And I think he kind of fell into that a little bit too much. And hey, he used it to fuel him, but I want to see more growth from Eminem if he does another album.
I agree. And I honestly, I've said it 2 albums ago. I don't think he needs another album ever again. He can come out with the greatest hits album or something like that, or maybe like one or two new songs. He doesn't need to make another new album. I feel like even Jay Z doesn't need to make another album. I think they're at a point in their career where they just don't need to keep adding to their catalog. We can just celebrate what they've done. Like I say, rap is a young man's sport. So for that reason, I don't think he needs to. But I'm sure he'll keep making music. I do think this is a much better album top to bottom. I think the end of the album kind of fell off a little bit, but overall, a great product, one of the better albums he's had in quite some time. So I was pretty impressed with it. And I didn't like how a lot of these rappers outside of obviously MGK, which we'll talk about, didn't really come back with anything. They're like, thank you. Like Lil Pump said thank you. Like, God, they're like happy that he got this in the song. Maybe even like Tyler Creator. Like, I know you can rap. Come back and say something. But the fact that MGK is the only one that responded shows he has guts. But Joe Budden, like, and I want to hear your thoughts. You do a lot of podcasts. Should he either shut up about this or respond? Like, I feel like it's really only one way or the other. And I know how I feel, but what's your thoughts on Joe Budden? Why he won't respond to Eminem?
This is my issue with Joe Budden. If he is going to be the media personality, I'm 100% fine with that because he's great at it. Just be that. If you want to be a rapper, then rap and be the media personality. I'm not saying you have to quit being the media personality to focus on rap, but when you sit on a podcast and you adamantly say you're the better rapper than Eminem, but won't respond on wax, I don't want to hear that from you. That's an excuse. Just say you thought the rap was whack, leave it at that, and then nobody will expect you to respond. But when you say as strongly as what you did, I'm better than Eminem, but then go off on and then take the next 2 hours to explain why you're not going to respond to him, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it.
Hot take from CEO Haize, because I think the same way. The fact that people were saying it was a great podcast, it was a great podcast. It was Joe the media man just talking his talk, what he does. And he said if Eminem comes back and does a better diss to him, which he may, then he'll actually get in the booth. So Eminem, and he clearly knows more than we think. So now the simple fact that he hears this, what if he comes back and drops a bigger diss track at Joe Budden? Is Joe Budden really going to come back? I think now he's at a point where he's bluffing to say, "Oh, if you do this, I'll make a song." I don't think he really wants to, or if he really wants to, he's gone so far in the way to say that he's retired that coming out of retirement would be a contradiction of what he's been saying for so long that he might not be able to anymore. But right now, he's putting himself in a tough spot, talking all this crap, saying he's better, and maybe, I guess, talent-wise, the type of songs you make the last 10 years, you may have been better than Eminem, but overall, entire career is not even close. And no one's ever gonna say, "Oh, Joe Budden had a better career than Eminem." It's just not. It's just not gonna happen. So tough call. I think, like you said, he needs to either rap or just move on from it.
Yeah, and I make this joke all the time, but it makes sense. Like Joe Budden is the hip hop John Madden. Like
Oh my god!
there are people who don't even know that John Madden was an NFL coach. He is mainly known for a video game. There are people who won't know that Joe Budden was ever a rapper. They're just gonna know him as the media personality. He's the hip hop John Madden.
Which is a great comparison, but it's actually okay if he sticks that up. But don't start hyping up saying I'm better than you. I've been better than you for 10 years. But we don't know that, and we won't hear it because you're not at any point trying to actually spar with Eminem. When everyone wants to see that, even though my guy Machine Gun Kelly ripped him to shreds, which I want to get your thoughts on this. Even still, MGK shouldn't be the only one that responds. So, do you think Eminem's coming back at MGK or what? I know he's saying some things in the Sway interview tonight. Should he respond? I think so, because, boy, he destroyed him on Rap Devil. One of the top 5 diss songs I've ever heard. That's my hot take. But do you think Eminem's going to come back at MGK or what?
This is my thing. And I said this on my podcast as well. If Eminem doesn't respond to MGK, everything that he said on Kamikaze is complete and utter bullcrap. When you spend an hour, and this is for somebody who Eminem is my number 2 rapper of all time. I'm a huge Eminem fan. But it's much like what I said with Joe Budden. If you're going to sit there and spend your whole album dissing your critics, talking about other rappers, and then when somebody comes for you, you don't respond. And especially if he sits on this, and I'm waiting for this part 2 of the Sway interview to drop.
Right.
If he tries to take the high road and says, "Oh, there's no point in me responding to MGK," it's going to knock Kamikaze down a couple of ranges for me, because when you spend your whole album being as aggressive as what you are and saying that you're the best and wanting to reaffirm where you should be in hip hop or ranked in hip hop, and you don't respond to somebody, to me that's you're the biggest hole in hip hop at that time, and I'm going to go on record for saying it.
That's incredible, and for some reason my hunch in me just says I don't think he's going to respond. I think somehow through this Sway interview he's going to explain why he's not going to respond. In the previews that they've been showing, they try to set up like he is, but it could be that we really don't know about, or he's talking about someone totally else, someone totally different than how he's setting it up. So make sure you check it out. But regardless, I don't think he's gonna respond. I think he's bluffing. I think he would have responded by now, unless he's gonna respond in a bigger song, like say at MGK, at Joe Budden, as someone else. I don't think he's gonna take his time to write a full diss track at MGK, because I don't necessarily think it's even worth it. At this point in his career, he said what he said. He almost threw a oop to MGK for MGK to step up and respond, and he bodied it. Not only bodied the song, he had choruses with it. He came out with a video the same day. He was actually prepared, like he had this in the tuck, like waiting for this moment. So shouts out to him for that. But I don't think it's gonna hurt Eminem at any point in his career because he's already a legend. So for some reason he doesn't respond and people say MGK wins. I don't honestly think Eminem really is gonna care, but the pettiness in me and in him thinks he still may respond, but in the form of a song mixed with someone else.
So me and you are both wrestling fans, and in wrestling, there's a term called putting someone over.
Yeah.
If Eminem, he may have inadvertently set up the next big white rapper if he doesn't respond to this. Like we've seen MGK's albums rise up the charts, and for much like we said about Mac Miller, it's good that people are discovering his music because he's been doing it for a long time. But I don't know. I feel like he has to respond. But part of me is like you. At this point, I don't think we will be. It's been over a week, and you haven't responded to MGK. And we'll talk about the diss itself because I have a little bit different opinion on MGK's actual song Rap Devil. But regardless of that, someone came at you directly, and not many people have ever came directly at M. And if you don't respond, man, that hurts a little.
That does. I think so. But we're in the age of social media. I think people will forget just how people have already forgotten about, Meek Mill and, back to back. Everyone thought Meek's career was going to be over. Obviously, Drake, he rose even farther, higher than he ever was after that. But Meek's back. He's fine. I think I saw the top, the Forbes list come out for hip hop cash kings, and he was still in the top 20, made 15 million last year. He's okay. So I think he may take a small hit, but at the end of the day, it'll only boost MGK's career. It won't hurt Eminem's career that much. But I know we got to move on briefly, but you said you wanted to give your thoughts on Rap Devil. I thought it was an amazing diss. Like I said, my hot take before I get yours, and outside like Hit 'Em Up, Back to Back, a couple others, definitely one of the top 5 diss songs of all time. The fact that it's a hit, #1 record on iTunes, I think it's going to debut in like Billboard Top 15 this upcoming week. When you turn a diss song into a hit record, you got to go up there in the charts. And I think he nailed it, and just everything he said, it was dope to me. It sounds like you got a difference of opinion, so what is it?
All right, so I want to make sure that I make the difference between the rollout and handling of the song, the video, the jersey, the him walking up to the M&Ms and eating M&Ms and everything he's been doing on social media and everything perfect. It's old school beef. Where I have maybe a hot take on is that the diss track himself, he rapped very well. Chorus hilarious, everything, but he really didn't say much to me. Like personally, as far as like ranking it in diss songs, he really didn't say anything that was that detrimental to Eminem for me. Maybe I've heard worse. I honestly think that the Cannabis track coming at Eminem was a little bit more as far as from a lyrical content standpoint. But I don't hate the song. It was a good diss song. I just don't feel it was great, but it didn't have to be. I feel like what MGK was trying to do, in my opinion, is he was trying to lure out Eminem. He heard something. I mean, Eminem threw what, 3 bars at him. He responded with a full song, a very good diss song. But I don't think he was going out for the knockout punch. I think he was setting him to respond. I think that if in response we're going to get something that makes Rap Devil look like nothing from MGK. I feel like he really has. It's going to be the follow-up track that MGK will really come for M's neck.
Yeah.
And I think there's a bit of a shock factor. And I think people were so shocked that of all the people in this, MGK came and how fast he came, and that played into it some. And like I said, the marketing of it has been perfect since. But the actual song itself, just breaking down the bars, there wasn't much there for me personally. But,
Got you.
Yeah, but I think that it was still a good diss song.
It definitely is a good diss song, and I agree with that. Maybe he does have a couple other things in the tuck that he can wait for later. And for the sport of hip hop, I hope Eminem responds because I know if Eminem responds, MGK will come back again. He's probably got a beat ready. He's got ideas in his head. Like I think he's ready to go. It's at the point where he's ready. You could tell he's ready to battle and do this. I feel like he's been waiting his entire career for this type of moment. So I think he won't be scared. Like I said, for that reason too, Eminem may not respond. So I'm curious to get, the listeners' thoughts. People have been texting me, tweeting me, Instagramming me for the past week and a half since this topic's been out. So I know everyone has their opinions. It seems to me that everyone loves the diss, or at least likes the diss, thinks it's a very good diss. But overall, I hope Eminem responds. Sounds like you want him to respond. Like I said, my guess is he doesn't respond. You say that he's going to respond, right?
I think he needs to respond, but I'm of two minds. Like there's part of me that thinks M will, and I think that the M of 6 years ago even would have responded for sure. I just don't know. Like once the Sway interview started coming, it kind of threw me off on me just knowing that M is going to respond. So I don't know.
Absolutely. So we'll talk more about this. Obviously, this sounds like it's going to be an ongoing feud for damn near the entire fall. They even took the G-Eazy beef with MGK out the game. Like we almost forgot about that. Like, that's already thrown out the window. Like no one cares anymore.
We can go ahead and bury G-Eazy carcass. Like he's done.
Yeah. It was just funny that he was saying how G is saying how MGK isn't as big as him, but after this song, how this might blow up, he might necessarily just pass him right up, like just at that moment that he had that song. So life's crazy, man. You never know what may happen at a moment's notice.
Yeah, true. And anyone who's a new MGK fan, what I want to say is go see the man live, and you will have a new appreciation for him.
Man, I've been saying that since 2012, but when people actually see it after they actually see him live, like, all right, I get it, I see what you mean, but they don't really get what's the point of actually going to it, just on your own accord. But once they see it, like, all right, I get it. So But now that I've seen people hit me up all the time, oh man, I really didn't know. I never really listened to him, but man, he's really. I'm like, no shit, I've been saying this forever. Like now you're still not realizing that, but it's all good. Moving on though, so we should get into just a little bit of everything Chicago. Got to keep it in for the city. It's been a crazy summer. I'm actually glad that it's over. It's just been nuts. It's actually been very good weather in the city this summer, but big news for the city. And I don't know if you heard about this story. So I want to get your thoughts. But Mayor Rahm Emanuel is not running for a third term. He's actually stepping down next May. He had 2 terms. You can go for a third. He decided not to do. He's had a lot of ups and downs, but he has done a lot of good for the city. So I can't just say he's done a lot of all bad. Like obviously we had a lot of school closings, the teacher strike, corruption convention of like school thieves, school chiefs, like gun violence has still been high. There's been a sex abuse scandal. So there's been a lot of negative, but he has, expanded like kindergarten and pre-K, like full time, like lengthen the school day, help improve graduation rates. Minimum wage has gone up in Chicago. Corporate headquarters have come here. We got expansion coming up of O'Hare. So he has done a lot of positive things for the city. But him not being mayor, at first I'm like, man, chance of this run right now, he'll win. But obviously he's got a lot of other things to do in music. But for the city of Chicago, how big do you think this is for the city? It's going to have a new mayor. I think we need a change, but now it's like, who's the next person? It's going to be very, very important to get the right person here in the seat.
And me not living in Chicago, maybe I'm missing a couple of perspectives, but I mean, just generally, it's tiring. Like I'm sure it's tiring to run a campaign. It costs money, long nights, especially when you have to worry about people digging up dirt on you, even if they can't find anything. Just the slandering and trying to muddy up your name. It gets tiring, and maybe that's why. Maybe it has nothing really to do with the job itself. Maybe he just wants to stay at home with his kids and just enjoy not having to deal with the political scene for a while. And then I can respect. It seems like he's done a lot of good in the city. It seems like he hasn't had any huge scandals or anything. Maybe it's best time to get out while you're on top rather than wait until you're forced out. So maybe he's just was like, hey, I'm done. It's time for me to rest now. I've done what I came to do. Now I rest. Even Jesus rested on the 7th day.
Absolutely. I think he's doing this for a bigger cause. I think he's still fairly young in his political career. I mean, in terms of politics in general, he's still a younger guy. I think he has a bigger calling or something bigger that he has planned. It sounds like he's going to run for a governor or he wants a seat in the White House somewhere. I just don't think his career is done, where he may need a little bit of a break to kind of figure out Plan B. But then, would you want to be the mayor of Chicago? I feel like it's just something every day in the city. A lot of corruption going on here. This is not one of the best cities in order to want to be a mayor. But man, I still love the city more than any other, so I can't complain.
City of Chicago is a great city indeed.
When's the last time you've been here?
About a year exactly ago.
We're going to up setting up that super podcast or whatever you said, like a super special podcast or something. So we'll definitely have you here in the city, and we'll get some of the better podcasts out here, and we'll do a show.
Yeah, I'll definitely be out there. My grandma's been trying to get me to come out there anyway, so I'll be out there sooner than later.
So quickly, last 2 weeks, North Coast Music Festival was an amazing time. It rained quite a bit. That's the only downside. It did rain a little bit here for Labor Day weekend, but shouts out to North Coast. Had a good time. Had a dope interview that is posted with, I think, Chicago legends in regards to the hip hop scene, the Cool Kids. They were big years ago. Still have a good following now. They still have their career going. Got to chop it up with them. So make sure you check out the interview. Like I said, did get to speak with Haley House as well. Dope Chicago DJ. So make sure you check out those interviews. I did get to see for the first time live Juice WRLD, which he's blowing up right now. So it's cool to see him. He sounds very Lil Uzi Vertish, like this is whole vibe and lane, which I mean I'm not surprised. That's the lane of music right now. So, but he was dope to see. It was a good time. So that was over. Riot Fest is this weekend. I won't be there since I will be in Detroit, but make sure you stay on top of that. I know Riot Fest that's not really my lane of music. It's always one of the better music festivals in Chicago. So make sure you check that out as well too. Are you a music fan, a music festival fan, or what? Cause I'm gonna get you out for one of these. This is gonna change your life, homie. I promise.
Oh man, I love music festivals. Like that was my life before. And it's funny because like before my youngest was born, even with the older kids, I was still able to like do almost whatever I wanted to and get out. Ever since my youngest was born, it's killed my vibe with a lot of stuff. No, I love music festivals, and I want to piggyback off one thing you said, and you said that Juice World kind of has a little Uzi Vert type vibe. The only
Yep.
thing that differentiates him from Uzi to me is that Juice World can actually rap. Like go and just Google YouTube any of his freestyles. He has bars. So
Okay.
I'm hoping that as he gets more notoriety, he finds a way to meld what he's getting the buzz for now with him actually rapping because he can actually rap.
Okay. Yeah. I honestly, bro, haven't heard a lot of his music. I know he's from Chicago. It's just so much music to keep up with. I know he's got a lane, so I wanted to make sure I checked him out. I liked it. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, it did have that Lil Uzi Vert vibe, but like I said, he didn't really do any of the songs where he can actually really rap. So I'm curious to see that side of him. But I mean, he's blown up, mad popular. So I can definitely see why he has the lane right now.
Absolutely.
Chicago Riverwalk, man, it's come up. I would say here in downtown Chicago, I'd say the past 2 years. But what's going on now? They're continuing to do enhancements to help create diversity, and what they mean with that is, different restaurants and bars of different ethnicities, whether it's an African restaurant, Hispanic, or what. They're going to have a plan in place to implement that along the entire Chicago Riverwalk. I think it's like a 2 mile radius or something that they said. So if you have a company and you want to submit your restaurant bar idea, I think you have until September 28th to submit your proposal. This is going to effect now. I've been down to the Riverwalk a couple times this summer. Way better. It's always just good vibes. There's a lot of people. You see the boats going by. Somewhere to eat for everyone. Somewhere to hang out if you wanted to sit. You want to walk down the city. It's good to check out. And this week with the weather being good, it'll be a great time to check out the Riverwalk too. So make sure you do, like I said, if you're interested, I think your proposal has to be in by September the 28th. And then lastly, you'll like this one. Kanye West, and I don't know what he's up to. He's on in Chicago apology tour. I guess he has plans to open a Yeezy office in downtown Chicago. And lastly, he wants to reopen the Avalon Regal Theater in Chicago. Is he going on his apology tour? You trying to get back in good graces in the city, or what is? I'm like, Kanye West up to something. What do you think that is?
He's rebuilding his image. I think he realized just how much damage he did to his image, even in his own city. And this goes. I mean, we talked about. I think last time I was on, we talked about him working with Chance the Rapper. So this is just building on that. I think he's just really trying to get back in touch with his hometown, and hopefully that affects the music. Hopefully, it affects him as a man. But yeah, he's definitely is part of his apology tour, is part of the rebuilding of Kanye West.
Yeah, he's up to something, and then he's doing songs a little pump now, hanging out with Takashi 6ix9ine. Like I think he gets obviously you can get through to that lane, get back in with your city. That helps him stay relevant now. He's messing with the new young rappers, and obviously getting back in good graces in Chicago. That could be endless opportunity. So I get his plan. Like I said, he's going on his little rebirth tour. It'll probably work as long as he doesn't fly off the handle and say something crazy again.
Yeah, true. And with Kanye, it's only a matter of time before he says something controversial. It's just how controversial and which way it leans.
Dope. So it's been a great summer in Chicago. Like I said, I'm glad it's over. We'll have more to come from the city, more events coming up here in the city of Chicago, so be on the lookout for that. But let's get into some quick hits. We got some good ones to get through. I want to get your opinions on these. So we're going to run through these very quickly. First of all, in college football this weekend, I'm actually kind of hyped to see this game, but Auburn, LSU is the college game of the week. Who do you have winning that game this weekend?
Auburn, all the way.
I'm going to go at LSU. I want to say Auburn, but for some reason, I feel like this LSU team is just much better than expected. And I think they're going to win. I won't be surprised if Auburn wins, but since you're going Auburn, I'm going to go LSU because I think they actually have a chance to win that game. Next, Bruno Mars. And it was crazy when I saw his headline. I had to think about this for a minute. But Bruno Mars is actually on tap to play Prince in the new biopic that they're creating on Prince. Is this a good choice with Bruno Mars?
I think musically it kind of makes sense. I can see Bruno Mars imitating Prince's performance very well. I don't know if, I mean, he's short like Prince. Like there's a lot of things that make it a good pick, but it's still something that I don't know. I feel I almost would have rather an unknown have been cast as Prince. That way we don't already identify him as one thing or already have an attachment to him one way or another. But
right.
I can see this working. I can definitely see it working.
I've never seen Bruno Mars act before, so on paper, on theory, I say yeah because he's a musician already. He can sing, he can dance, but like I said, I don't know otherwise if this may be a good choice or what. But I guess we'll have to find out. Musically, yeah, I think I'm gonna give it a shot, and I think it's gonna help people relate to the actual movie better, knowing that Bruno Mars is playing it. They're gonna want to see it to kind of see how he acts and plays Prince in the movie.
Yeah, people. I mean, people are definitely going to want to see it. Bruno Mars does already have a very big fan base, so you're going to get people in that way. I mean, you're already going to get people in the door. Come on now, it's Prince, one of the best artists to ever live and walk this planet. But yeah, still, it's just something about me that casting just doesn't sit right with me. But I can't put my finger on it because I literally just listed all the reasons why it's a good casting. I just don't know.
I think it's dope, but we'll see what happens. And then this one, did you watch the Power season finale?
Absolutely.
And well, I only put it because I know you probably seen it because I haven't seen it, and I've been off and on Power, so I just put it on there because I figured a lot of people want to hear somebody's thoughts about it. Cause I don't have it, so I'm sorry. But you saw Power. Did you like the season finale?
Yeah, I mean the season finale was okay. I think that there was a lot of fluff in the finale, and there the 2 to 3 episodes before it was like legitimately very fast paced, beat after beat after beat. So I typically like slower season finales that make you think and kind of build up the tension and like, oh, I know something's crazy is going to happen. It hasn't happened yet, but I think that the impact of what happened at the end with Angela getting shot was taken away a little bit when the damn writer of the show comes out the very next day and says, "Oh, Angie will be back season 6." Why
Wow.
do that? Why do that? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah, but I mean, Power. It had an up and down season. I definitely don't think this was its best season. I think it had some of the series' best episodes, but as a full season, I feel like it just nothing happened for the majority of the season, and they kept pushing it off to pack those 3 episodes, like I said before. But yeah, I mean, Power is a good show. It's a well written show. I can't wait to see where it goes season 6. I think that they are going to change the dynamic definitely some based off Tommy shooting Angela and how that affects his and Ghost's relationship. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just expect a little bit more from the finale.
I've been binge watching Blacklist all of a sudden on Netflix.
Oh my god!
But I'm on season 3. Man, I'm like, what the? Why was I not watching this when it was out?
Listen, Blacklist was one of those shows that my boss at back when I worked before I moved to the company I did now, she was like, "Do you watch Blacklist?" I'm like, "No, I haven't watched it at all." She was like, "Just watch it. The whole season's on Netflix now. Please watch it." And I sat there and I think I burnt through the 20 or however many episodes that were in that first season in like 48 hours because I just could not stop watching
it. Facts. Like you can get through the whole first season in 2 days, but it's long. It's like 20 some episodes. It was worth it. That show's fire.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Quickly, and I know I'm not sure. You're probably not a Big Brother fan, are you? Never have them.
Brian?
Yeah.
Repeat that. I'm sorry.
Oh, I haven't cut that part out. What are you right
now? 11:26.
11:26. Okay. We'll start again. I was gonna say, so you aren't a Big Brother fan, are you?
No. I used to be a huge Big Brother fan. I kind of have fallen off the last couple seasons.
Well, we have a lot of people, a lot of listeners that watch the show, so always want them to keep up with it. It's always a big week. This week is they're doing so. It's Big Brother. They're at season 20, which is crazy. They're at even at season 20. But this week is a double eviction week. I think there's 7 people left. They got the jury house back in. I think this week, for listeners that want to know, I think this week that I think they need to get JC out. I'm not sure why they haven't yet because he's a little snake. I think they should get him out. I can see why he plays the game that way, but he hasn't won any competitions, and I think he's making a lot of moves behind the scenes. They need to get him out ASAP. I think Sam needs to go. She's annoying. She hasn't done much in a while, and I think they should keep Haley. My pick right now, I still think Tyler overall should win, but Casey's having a great season, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it for all the Big Brother fans out there. We'll see. Hopefully, the show, it's been a long summer for the show. It's been on like the end of 3.5 months. It needs to end soon. I just want to see who wins. But next, I got to ask you this. Are you okay with all these former Chicago Bulls players going to the Minnesota Timberwolves? They're called they changed their name already or whatnot, but Why are all the Chicago Bulls players going to Minnesota right now?
I don't know. And you would think that the fact that Tim Thibodeau had ran most of their knees out from underneath them by working them so hard that they wouldn't want to go back. But no, I think it definitely speaks to the how much respect that they have for from Tom Thibodeau as a coach. But I think that he's doing because what I believe he's bringing all these guys is to set a winning atmosphere and to expect more from the young guys. But that's what you have Jimmy there for. Derek came in before the playoffs last year and played great. Dang, okay. You want a veteran voice in the locker room. But if he signs Noah too, which has been expected, like you just have too many guys on the roster who aren't going to play. That are just old. It's like they didn't see the fact that this didn't work for the Nets. Like when they brought in Paul Pierce and they brought in KG, and even with the Clippers when he brought in Jeff Green and Paul Pierce there too. Like it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to do anything, and you risk alienating Karl Anthony Towns, who already has not signed his extension. So I don't know.
Hey, I think it's a terrible idea. These players are not the same players they were when you played for them in Chicago. They're much older, obviously outside of Jimmy Butler. So I don't think he's staying in Minnesota at all. I think the first chance he gets, he's out of there. So they want to recreate the Chicago Bulls. Fine. I think, like I said, they got some older players. Like Dang's older. He's not the same player. Jakeem Noah, he's been hurt like the last season or two. Get out of here with that. So they can try. I'm not sure it'll work, but they got a lot bigger issues going on in Minnesota, which I thought they were going to go on a run. That run may not last that long.
And they still may go on a run, just depending on how much. If they try to rely on Luol Deng more than maybe 8 to 10 minutes a game, no, I don't understand it. Like you already have Wiggins and Jimmy Butler there, who are defensive wings. There's no point for Luol Deng other than him being a locker room guy. Maybe that's what he's there for. We'll see. I think that they have bigger problems in Minnesota than trying to sign guys to set tones. They have to get guys under contract. Because I agree with you. Jimmy's gone to LA the moment he gets the chance.
He's out of there, bro. Facts. He's definitely out of there.
Minnesota isn't even going to get a meeting with him in free agency to offer him a contract. I guarantee it.
How'd your own team not even get a meeting? That be sending a message, but it's probably gonna happen.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance? And you might not have. This was hot off the press about an hour or two ago. They released the Forbes released their hip hop cash earnings list, the top 20. Did you get a chance to see it? If so, were there any surprises? I know a few surprises, but what do you think about today?
The fact that Damn from Kendrick Lamar was on there and it dropped in April 2017 and it was one of the highest earners in 2018 speaks a lot to the legacy of that album. We know he won a Pulitzer for that. It just speaks to how great, and anyone who doubts that album being a classic, that album's completely a classic. Cardi being on the list over Nicki Minaj, I think means so much to.
Oh wow.
What Cardi?
I she wasn't on the list at all.
I think she. Maybe I'm tripping, but I thought she was.
I saw Cardi. I don't remember seeing Nicki. I gotta look again.
Well, no, I'm saying Cardi was over Nicki. Nicki wasn't on there at all.
Exactly. That's what.
Nicki.
Gone on me until you said that just now.
Yeah, Nicki wasn't on that list at all. So like, it's just it's a crazy list.
She's probably too hype right now, Cardi B, especially after what happened.
Oh yeah.
She's in her feelings over that. My biggest surprise has to be Russ, and I know Russ was killing it. I didn't know Russ was killing it to making $15 million, and he was independent for a lot of that time. I know he's with Columbia Records now, but now the fact that he made $15 million, I think it goes from June to June. So June of 2018 was a cutoff. So this is even counting what he did this past summer. I didn't know he was popping like that. He talks a lot of shit, which I wish he didn't do. But man, he can talk shit. The fact that $15 million in the last calendar year is amazing. I wouldn't have expected that. But everything he said he's going to do, he's actually done it to this point. But I'm still surprised he's on that list.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big Russ music fan, but he does have rabid fans out there, so I guess it makes sense. And like you said, he talks shit, so I guess this backed it up. He backed it up.
It's crazy that Jay and Puff still number 1 and 2. Can't get taken over. Like Dre will be there, Drake, Kendrick will be there. No one ever passes Jay and Puff like all these years. It's crazy. Like even still 2018, they're number 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's literally until they stop doing any type of content or even trying. They're gonna have to work harder to get off this list than to get on it.
Absolutely. Quickly, the biggest first week heartbreak. I got to hear your thoughts on this. Chicago Bears or the Detroit Lions.
Detroit Lions. I think that the Bears, just for me, I didn't have high expectations, even though they're one of my favorite teams. So them playing the Packers that close, I think is not a heartbreak. You can actually pull a lot of good out of that. I think the Detroit Lions losing to the Jets the way they did, that has to be the biggest heartbreak.
Absolutely, it's the Detroit Lions. Green Bay, they have Aaron Rodgers. I don't care if he's on one leg or not. One leg Aaron Rodgers is better than 95% of the quarterbacks in the NFL still. So, Chicago losing to Green Bay in that fashion, you're not surprised. It's just the beginning of the season. They'll be okay. They're still a young team for the Bears, so it was bad, but not that bad. But what Detroit did, losing at home, season opener, first game of the year, new coach, you're at home, it's Monday Night Football, and to play like that after the start of the game, all time bad. Definitely a heartbreaker. Lions may only win 3 games right now with the way I'm seeing after that because they played horrible in the preseason. We'll see. But as of right now, it's not looking good for my Detroit Lions.
Not good at all.
It's not looking good. But lastly, Stephen A. Smith named the top 5 sports cities that he has. I want to hear your thoughts. Did you see the list? And what would be your top sports cities all across the country in the U.S.? He had obviously the biggest ones, but a couple surprises like Houston was on there. What's your top 5 sports cities in the U.S.? Or what do you think of the league?
There's no situation in life in which Houston should rank higher than Chicago on a top 5 city in sports ever. And if it wasn't for Stephen A. Smith and someone else made that list, I would seriously question if they ever have been to a Chicago sports game at all. So yeah, Chicago has to be. I don't think they could drop further than 3 at all. The fact that, and I'm a huge Chicago Bulls fan. The fact that the Chicago Bulls have led the NBA in attendance, even when they weren't even making the playoffs, says a lot about what that city feels about their sports teams.
Facts, and I think Detroit should be in that list. I'm not being biased because of the city. We have all of our sports teams in downtown Detroit now. I don't think any other team or any other city in America, you can fact check me on that, has all of their main teams right in downtown Chicago, all relatively new arenas or stadiums. Just got to get the Lions in order, but I think Detroit should be in that list. But like I said, Chicago should be higher. But obviously, can't go wrong with New York. Boston, actually, I might be okay with. They're diehard fans of Boston for their sports fans, so I might get with them on that one.
Yeah, Boston and Philly, I can't argue with. But Houston, I don't know. Maybe it's because when I was in Houston and they go to Houston Rockets game, it's when they weren't that good. But the fans there just weren't at all like into the game. Like people were on their phone, and even here, like I'm in Columbus, I'm in one of the biggest college sports towns ever, and like when Ohio State's playing, almost no one even pulls out their phone during the game, especially not while actually plays are being made on the field. So I have to argue with that, but maybe that's just because I haven't been in Houston since Harden's been there. But I still can't rank them above in the top 3. Like that just doesn't make any sense to me.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So that's dope. Love doing quick hits. You can go through a lot so fast. People are always like when they hear the podcast, like you guys are always so prepared. Like it's not easy. You got to stay on top of what's going on. But I mean, we love talking about these topics, so it's definitely nothing to us. But it's definitely time consuming to keep up with. But appreciate you participating in that as always. Now let's get to our count of the week. I've got a good one. I got to dive into this. But first, CJ, I want to hear who's your count of the week for this past week.
And I wanted to pick the same one you did, but just for the interest of conversation, I'm going to go back to what has just been my clown of the week for the last week and a half, and that is people who are destroying Nike attire after you've already paid for it. I'm sorry, you deserve to be the clown of the month, because that's just, it doesn't make any sense, people. It just doesn't. I don't understand it. Just don't buy any new stuff, but you're destroying what you already have. Nike has your money, so they have to be the clown of the week for me.
That's a good one. It's crazy. The types of people that are doing it. It's people that don't really rock Nike like that anyway. And people are trying to say Nike's gonna take a hit over this, and no, they're not. Like the kids that are gonna wear Nike are the 14, 15, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds that rock Nikes, and that demographic they don't care. They're not gonna not support Nike because of Colin Kaepernick. Like if someone in Oklahoma, or Nebraska, or Arkansas doesn't want to, they're probably not the demographic that Nike's selling to anyway. I don't think it actually matters. And those are really the only ones that have been burning anything. So miss us with that. Now, all right. So my clown of the week, unfortunately, and I hope this day wouldn't come, but it just seemed like only too obvious. You'll probably agree that day was gonna come to where Nicki Minaj and Cardi were definitely gonna meet up, and something was gonna happen at some point in time. But to me, my clown of the week has to go to both, unfortunately, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj. I'm not team either. Doesn't really matter. I just think the fact that they're beefing at all is silly. I think for where they are in their careers, I think they should both be uplifting each other. Imagine if they were a dominant force and were actually on a team, what they could do, the types of songs they could make, the money they could make together. The reason they're even beefing, honestly, is probably really over nothing. It sounds so minuscule, like talking about getting strippers beat up and talking about kids and that. It seems so petty. Like they almost just in competition just for the fact that they're both women rappers right now who are both hot. And Nicki could be pretty petty. She might be jealous. She might have said some things, but I think overall they both should get Con of the Week. And then to end up in an event at a Fashion Week event, I don't care if it's in New York. I don't care what types of models are there. I'm assuming they probably have drugs there too. It doesn't matter. It's just the look that you give or give off to the audience when you're doing that in an event like that. That's why they don't like black people sometimes in those types of events because things like that happen. Sometimes you got to realize right place, right time. Always down for something. If you got to handle your business, you should. You got to know the type of place that you're at. It can't always be on site, unfortunately, because that types of events happen. So we got to learn from that. Not a good look. I think they both get Clown of the Week. I don't care who's right and wrong in the situation. Nicki's trying to take the higher role, but she's been petty the whole time too. So I get it. But I think for now, unfortunately, and I love them, Nicki Minaj and Cardi B, you have to get the Clown of the Week.
I can agree with that more. Like fighting and doing all that in public as an adult, I don't care where you are, is just idiotic. And I know this is the love and hip hop generation where people want to see that. It's stupid. It's just dumb.
Yeah. And then like the list or fans of each like on each other's side or Cardi B's fans like saying, "Oh, she deserved it. And she should have thrown her shoe at her." No, she should not have. No, she should not be doing that. Like I think Cardi B, it's time for her to get to a point to where yeah, we know her upbringing, how she is, she's real, this, that, and the other, but she got to realize her place and celebrity status right now, where she probably needs to just fall back on doing that and handle that behind closed doors. Because right now, that's just, and she may be fine from it, but for now, things are bad look all around.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming on Alternative Fact Chicago again. It was a dope episode. Had a lot to catch up on. I'm curious to your listeners' thoughts and opinions, so make sure you email us, tweet us. It will be out ASAP. It will be on all of our platforms as well too. So, CJ, where can they find you? I know you're on quite a few radio shows now. Plug everything everywhere that people can listen to your show and you personally.
And you can follow me at CEO Haize. That's at CEOHAIZE. I have 3 other podcasts, so if I plug those, it would literally take too much time. So if you follow that account, you'll see everything else. You can listen to me and my various podcasts on Wild Dogs Radio on Thursdays. You can also catch the Breaks Radio live on WTMH Radio here in Columbus, Ohio.
So you're saying it doesn't air until it airs first on their station, and then it's out for tape for everywhere else.
Exactly. So the podcast, everything, it's not released until it airs there live. So it's an actual live radio show. You can catch it WTMHradio.com. And then it's released I try to get it out as a podcast about an hour after it airs live.
This guy's killing it, man. Make sure you follow him. Doing great things in the industry. You can find us as well on 24/7 liveculture.com. I think one of your podcast is on there as well too. So shouts out to them as well. Thanks for all the comments and following us on Instagram. Like I said, Twitter for AFAC Chicago. Please keep coming, as well as Facebook. We'll have a big announcement coming up next week. Really excited for you to hear it. But really appreciate and thank you all for listening and making Alternative Fact Chicago #1 podcast in the city. We got a lot more coming up. I promise you, a lot of big announcements. It's going to be a great fall. And I hope you all had a great summer. You got anything else, CJ, or can I get the hell up out of here?
Let's get the hell up out of here.
All right, I appreciate it. So it's been Alternative Fact Chicago, episode 58. B.Hun, CEO Haize once again, and we are out. All right, peace.
Peace.